Well, there is one sound that usually opens up anything like this, and that is the sound of, oh yeah, good beer.
The idea, as far as I know, it came from you.
Yeah, well, we go through these long winters here in the Midwest, and they're often brutal and cold, and we camp out in our living rooms waiting for warm weather and thinking of our bikes out in the garage, that kind of thing. And so I thought, there's a lot of cabin fever there, and Cincinnati's had this whole revitalization of its brewery heritage. Back before Prohibition, they were the third largest, city for brewing. So, Rheingeist has this amazing facility and a huge old warehouse that used to be a brewery. Inside, it's so big they have wiffle ball tournaments and things like that inside, So it just looked like visually it would be a wonderful place to do it. Obviously, there's beer there, facilities, everything like that, and it's indoors.
Yeah, I think the whole time we were originally talking about where to do it, the first thought was Rheingeist, and I think it was just amazing that they jumped on board right away.
That's when I think we sat down and talked about names, and the whole Garage Brewed idea came about. Not only are the bikes Garage Brewed, but this show was Garage Brewed. I mean, this is just a bunch of guys getting together with engineering challenges and how do we make this work? And put off a good party, a good show. Showcased not only Cincinnati and our brewery heritage, but also the whole Midwest, all of our brother and sister cities, Louisville, Lexington, Indy, Columbus, Cleveland, and showing, what's going on in the Midwest. And so I love that Cincinnati was able to host that.
The Rheingeist is really family friendly. I mean, it opens up at open it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
And I love that it was a family friendly event. It was all welcome, and the kids enjoyed it. So the goal was just to throw a good party, introduce people to what Midwestern builders are doing. Even people who are just there to drink beer, they get introduced to our motorcycle scene.
And when we were in the design stage, we kind of struggled a little bit with the beer idea and motorcycle riding, and we didn't want it to be like a drunk fest or whatever. And we tried to temper that. I mean, that was a big concern that we had.
Yeah, how do you mix the message of beer and motorcycling without getting the whole DUI situation?
Right, and I think it worked out great then. I mean, the whole thing worked out super.
Oh yeah. Once we knew that we were going to be in a brewery and we got our name Garage Brewed, the theme all kind of came together, and then you came up with the whole idea, I think it was you, of putting them up on kegs. And boom, everyone loved the idea.
But we were all like, I don't know if that's going to work, though.
He photoshopped it, looks like we could do it, and then says, can you build that? So me and Tommy got to the shop at my house, and we made it work.
Set out the image of it all strapped up, and then even had one of you guys on top of it, like trying to shake it off, and it was like so solid. So.
Well, we put the GS up on the kegs, and it was a disaster. You're gonna have to buy me a couple side bags and a front fairing.
That was your idea with the old doors and using old doors instead of just plywood.
Yeah.
The idea of like a garage brewed bike, you're building a bike in your garage with parts that you're finding, and here we find these old doors and use them as platforms for to show off the bikes, and there's a great idea. It worked out awesome.
Set them off from just a plain sitting them on the concrete floor.
Well, let's talk about the bikes. I mean, we had, like you said, we had all kinds of bikes. We had a good variety at the show. The variety of bikes was spectacular. Everything from a 1938 race bike, like a board track bike, to world speed, record holders out in the Salt Flats.
And the rider that rode it.
And the rider that rode it.
Yeah.
My name's Eric Ratherman. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, right here in the North Side neighborhood. And I brought a 1955 BMW R50 race bike to the shop. My friend Len Kirchhoff that owned the shop Autobahn Craftworks here in Cincinnati. He and I both watched the movie The World's Fastest Indian. And he watched it with his wife, who, of course, as soon as the movie was over, looked at him and said, "You're not going to do that, are you?" To which he said, No, of course not. And then the idea starts to formate. And we had customers had this old R50 race bike. It had been a road racer originally, but it had been built back in the day as a race bike. And so that's where the genesis for the Bonneville idea was. Let's take this to Bonneville. But we rebuilt it over 2007 and then took it to Bonneville in 2008 and 2009. Bonneville's an amazing place. Martian, I guess, landscape is the best description. It's so flat that you can see the curve of the earth at the edge of the horizon. We did very well. We set several land speed records in 2008. I set one and then Len set one. We raced both an unstreamlined and a streamlined version, so with a fairing and without a fairing. And in 2009, Len broke his previous year's record, and my wife, Jessie, stole my record. And she actually went the fastest of all of us at a little over 111 miles an hour. Len's real specialty was painting and restoration. So he said, "I want to paint it school bus orange." And I thought for a minute, I said, "I don't." And then I realized he's the painter, I'm the engine builder. Let's leave it at that, right? And we painted it bright school bus orange, and we rolled it out onto that vast expanse of white salt, and boy did it pop! Just popped right off the surface of that background. But Len passed away several years ago, so it's nice to have the motorcycle back in our possession, to have it racing, have plans to get it racing again, and to kind of bring it out as a tribute to him and something that we shared together that that I can have, and the community, all of us that had Len as a friend, can continue to experience.
Really rare, 1 of 200 ever made kind of bikes, like the Moto, things like that. Mm-hmm. What were some of your favorite bikes?
I thought it was interesting. I had my $600 Craigslist find CB 360 sitting next to two one-of-a-kind Indians.
Oh yeah, those Indians were fantastic.
Those Indians were amazing.
And we had a huge variety of bikes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was awesome.
We all knew that we wanted it to be a very open show and hit everything. We didn't want it all cafe. We didn't want it all chopper. Mm-hmm. I can't believe the bikes that you were able to get to come in to submit that early on. Probably months and months before. You said, "I got this thought. Why don't we do this winter show?" And then we go down to Barber last year. We run into Mike McFadden.
Yeah.
He's drinking beers. We're listening to
Great guy.
rockabilly music. And that's kind of when it gelled, because we had been talking about it. He comes over and we have kind of a connection there. Mm-hmm. And we're like, wow, here's a guy that's fairly local to Cincinnati. He's an amazing builder.
Yeah, it really is.
And he's actually interested.
I'm Mike McFadden out of Owensboro, Kentucky, and I own M&M Customs. I build custom motorcycles, anything from bobbers to cafe racers to whatever floats my boat at that time. And I've been doing it since 2012. I'm not a guy that has a 1 million square foot shop. I'm a guy that's building them out of my garage and doing it for the love, of motorcycles. And some of my current builds that I've had, I did a bobber called the Salt Shaker 1980 XS 650 that the Yamaha Star Corporation took on tour. And since then, I was also put in a biker build with 9 other up-and-coming builders, and did really well with the boat. It was a new model that came out last year, and Yamaha wanted to show people, this is what we bring to the table, and let's see what you can do with it. One of my favorite bikes that I've built, but I guess I would say is my newest one, Holy Moly. It's my take on a Japanese board tracker. If the Japanese guys would have had one around in the 1920s or early teens, and with the bike, how I built it, I wanted to show that the Japanese guys would do something totally opposite of what the American guys would do. When I started on Holy Moly, it was one of those, can I beat what I've done? It's like, can I top it? And so I really put my heart into Holy Moly. And one thing when I build my bikes, I want to show people that that I have different flavors. You got your chocolate, your strawberry, your vanilla. And I just want people to know that I can do different styles. One thing I like doing on my builds is I like to get the public involved. And so on my Facebook page, I put my stuff out there so everybody can see it. And so And it's kind of funny because as I come up with my ideals, I'll throw some pictures out, set them on there, and you can kind of gauge, if people are feeling it or if they're not feeling it. And if the top one only got 1 vote and the other one got 15, they probably ought to go with the one with 15.
He was grabbing little kids and putting them up on his bike, and they were taking pictures on the stand that we had built. That was neat to see.
The quality of the bikes that we were choosing from was awesome.
Yeah, we really did have good selection.
I mean, the Pro builders, the quality was amazing, and the ingenuity and the design was amazing. But I think even like the garage guys, those bikes. I mean, just the thought that went into some of the ideas and how stuff worked. It was amazing. It was
and
really,
we even had restos. I mean, the restorations of that CB 175 down to every nut and bolt.
That tank was the original paint in a box on eBay.
From a dealer.
Never been opened, and he built the bike. Around that tank.
This is a guy with 3 little kids, and he's got time to sit out there and take that thing down to every little piece and clean it
And have his kids help.
And have
that was his first restoration, and it was spectacular.
Yeah.
My name is Brian Cox.
And I'm Erin Cox.
We brought a 1973 CB175. Well, I purchased the bike on Craigslist about 4 years ago. I purchased it with the intent of just learning how to disassemble a motorcycle and seeing if I could put something back together. I'm an engineer by degree, and so I work in an office, and so I don't have a chance to work with my hands as much as I like to. This build was off and on for about 4 years. The fuel tank I found on eBay, and this was a gem because it was a new old stock replacement of the same paint scheme. This dealership in South Carolina was cleaning out their old basement inventory, and they found this fuel tank, and this thing came in the original box from Japan from '76. So it had the Japanese writing on it, and I opened it up, and it came out of the box as you see it on the bike. And so it sat for a while, and we're raising small children. We have 3 young boys.
We had 3 kids in 4 years. So in between, and so we have 3 sons that keep us busy. So in between, a lot of sleepless nights that he was in the garage, or I would be with him.
The winner of the Pro was a 60-something Triumph bobber.
That was green.
That
Green bobber.
Yeah.
That was the one where there was a girl there who had the bright green hair that matched the bike. Fantastic.
I don't know how many people asked her to get up on the bike to take a picture of her.
And that Goldwing. Who would ever thought a Goldwing would look so cool like a Mad Max bike?
Yeah. And that was Scott out of Louisville. His Goldwing build and the other build that he has. What was that? An XS 650 or something, or 450?
XT500, wasn't it?
That's it. XT500.
The split seat.
Both of those builds, beautiful.
My name is Scott Hoblack from Louisville, Kentucky. Shop name is H Garage. Today I brought a 1980 Yamaha XT500 that I finished last year, and then I brought a 1978 Honda Goldwing that I finished round about last night. The Honda was it was like one of those kind of quick decisions that I thought I was going to regret. Guy told me, I love Goldwings. But I was like, I don't know. And then a guy called me. He's like, $250 barn find. And I was like, shit, yeah, I'll take that. So he brings it out on a trailer, and we couldn't even get it off the trailer. The thing was completely, the brakes and everything were seized up. So we dumped a can of WD-40 on the rotors and the disc just to get the thing into the garage. And then I thought, maybe this is a horrible idea, but a buddy of mine named Doug Devine, Modern Metals is his build name. He builds motorcycles as well. He came over. He always helps me out, like either early on or always at the end of the projects. But we got everything kind of unstuck, and then we went through the motor, cleaned out the carbs, everything, and we got it running. And I was like, all right. And then I just started, same with every build. I just like strip them all down before I even think about what I'm going to do with it. And I got everything off of it, and I thought, I'm just going to leave this thing as naked as possible. I don't want to put any plastic on it. I wanted something beefy looking, so I got kind of an 80/20 dual sport tire, but you can't get a whole lot of tires for those wheel sizes. And then I wanted like that solid wheel look, just to kind of heavy it up. So I called the guys at Moon Eyes, and I was like, man, can y'all make me some covers? And then like the next kind of design decision was, I was like, I'm just gonna modify that air box and just have a big breather sitting in your lap. And then after that, I kept stripping stuff down. It's just meant to be mean and ugly and uncomfortable.
But we had that some of those fancy Ducatis there that were worth some big bucks too.
Yeah.
My name's Todd Steinway. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. Lived here all my life. I got into motorcycle racing because went up to see up in Mid-Ohio, and I first was into dirt biking, and then as I got my license, started watching road racing. And at that, I went up there a Yamaha fan, but came home a Ducati fan because they were so successful, and the sound. And then finally saw one and said, oh, one day I'm going to get one of these motorcycles. So I did. I treated myself to a Ducati several years back. It's a 1999 Ducati 996S. And the S designation was limited production. They only made 200 worldwide, and I have number 007. And the difference in the bike was it has carbon fiber. It has carbon fiber air box on it, carbon fiber fender, lightweight wheels, and it had like a white tail on it, which you could put your number plates on it. The bike was designated to be a track bike, race bike. Ducati was hoping people would buy these bikes and put them on the track. So they're pretty much ready to go when you got them. And mine's the first year that they made this bike, and it was a big special thing. So I like it a lot. I'm not getting rid of it. I always buy other motorcycles, but you never get rid of any. Right now I'm looking at the new KTM 390 Duke. And somebody says, oh, what are you going to get rid of? It's like, oh, you don't get rid of anything. You just buy more. Because they all have different meanings. I have a sport bike Ducati, and I have a touring Ducati. And just like I tell my girlfriend, we have a different purse for different occasions, right? Well, I need a different bike for different occasions as well. You know, the little sport bike for, going out and getting yourself charged up, a touring bike, sitting up, the bags. But now I need to have a middle of the road bike, a commuting bike. So I need one more motorcycle, Joe. So I'm not done yet.
Let's go to the other side of that, Skinny Ricky's bike. Because every time Skinny Ricky would go back and get a beer, he'd go over and he'd pour beer on the bike. Like he's christening the bike. And I'm watching these women behind him going, oh my God, you see him pour beer on that bike? Like it was someone else's bike and they were freaking out.
He called it Beer Tina. Patina.
Yeah.
It's
Beer Tina.
I'm Skinny Ricky from actually Bellevue, Kentucky, Southside Natty. The bike I brought today is a 71 Triumph 500 Ghetto Blaster. It's a full one-off build, custom hardtail, 6-over. Seat is a Louis Vuitton custom upholstery that pivots off the original front part of the loop of the frame, sidecar loop, off of mountain bike swing arm shock. It's a split tank, so the gas or fuel is on the right side. The left side's a dummy tank that hides all the electronic ignition that's 12 volt. The key actually on the left side, you insert the key, turn the ignition on in the old petcock hole. Obviously there's no fuel coming out, there's no petcock because it's the dummy side of the tank. It's a 79 Honda 500cc 23-inch wheel on the front, Harley 21 rear. My controls, pipes, motor mounts, just the list goes on and on, man. I'm the son of a retired mechanic and grew up with wrenches in my hand and bleeding brakes, barely reaching the steering wheel to the brake pedal, And artist, musician, the bike reflects that. It's actually a memorial build to my boy Dennis Rendiger, the Price Hillbilly, aka the Mook. And so I had the idea to cut the gas tank in half because I love the lines of the original Triumph tank and the badges and all that is so iconic and historic and it's just beautiful, the aesthetic of it. But it seemed like, everyone was building these like bobbers and just keeping the stock tank on, which I love that look. And I was like, what, man, I want to do something different. So it took me like 2 weeks of searching for a bandsaw big enough to like cut straight through the tank, and instead I went KY Bellevue style with the Ziz wheel for like an hour and cut the tank in half. And the Live Forever on there was once a decal on raw metal that turned into a ghost of it after the decal was removed. So last week the whole tank was rusty, so I had Andy Gabal, another good friend of mine from iDesign, make some negatives. And about an hour later in the Bead Blaster, the Live Forever's back. And so Dee's right here with us, man, living forever at Rheingeist. and at the Garage Brewed, man. It doesn't get more Garage Brewed than my bike, the Ghetto Blaster, you know?
Did we pick Skinny Ricky's bike for the bike, or did we pick it for Skinny Ricky?
Well, Skinny's a character.
Yeah.
I mean, him and the bike go together as a pair. It's good. Yeah. There's one guy in Lexington, Logan Miller, who was bringing up his bike. He's got it on some new little bumper hitch, thing. He's going down the road. He's probably not more than a half mile from his house, and he hears something, and something's dragging off the back, and oh my God, sure enough, the bike had come off this new trailer hitch thing and it was dragging on the ground behind the vehicle. He's on his way to the show. What do you do at that point,
Yeah, so I was kind of lazy and I didn't want to get the trailer out of the garage, so I was like, I'll use this hitch hauler thing, because nothing ever bad happens with those. And I'm driving down Main Street with the bike in tow, and then I'm like, that's a strange noise, and I look back and the bike is just dragging along behind the truck at like 25 miles an hour. And it just one of the straps popped off and it just fell over. It's probably more my fault than the hitch hauler's fault. But it's okay. We just ruined a bar end and a few scratches on the frame, and no big deal. So the rear end bike was it's kind of this friendly fire joking deal that I have with my friend down in Texas. He has a company called Moto, and I had this bike that was 74 CB360, had kind of a hideous looking fiberglass tail on it, and he was always giving me shit about it. And he was like, man, I'm gonna build you a nicer looking tank. And so then we kind of started firing messages back and forth, and we were like, you know what? Why don't we build a bike via like text message, and like you're in your state in Texas, I'm in Kentucky. Let's like kind of build one, and then we'll put it together when we get down to Alabama at the Barber Vintage Festival. And so yeah, let's do that. Well, okay, let's get a couple other people involved. So I got myself, Junior Burrell from Moto, David Kiggins from DEK Performance, and a guy named Kylie down in Alabama who has Canicoy Designs. And so I designed, the bike with Junior. He built the tank and the tail, the exhaust. I rebuilt the engine, worked the frame. Doug did the suspension, and Kylie did this oil pump fix to kind of solve the top end oiling issues. We all did our part, put the bike together starting on Friday, and we worked basically like 20 hours a day on this thing, put it together, and at the end of the day, Monday morning, the bike rolls out and it's finished. And so we had this goal to build this bike, in 4 different states and 4 different people, and it all came together and it worked out.
The Midwest has great builders, and there's some great bikes hiding in garages all around the area. It's great. We've gone through one now. Next year, we're going to have a whole new crop of bikes. We're not looking for the bikes that have been to all the huge shows around the country and, have like glow sticks underneath them, that kind of thing, So, the kind of bikes we're looking for are not big, $100,000 bikes. Mm-hmm. There's something that are unique, hand-built, something that's maybe quite rare in terms of age and that sort of thing. We've already got the dates up on February 6th. Most likely we will be held at Rheingeist again. They'd love to have us back. We're going to be lining up new sponsors, new vendors. Part of the fun of this for the audience is when they're surprised and delighted and shown new things and come home with a little bit of swag, and it's a free show to them. So there's really no reason not to come out. You have beer, you have cabin fever in the middle of winter, you have motorcycles. That's a perfect format.
And you have people, friends, friends that you haven't seen because you usually ride with them and you don't see them, and you get to meet them up again in February.
Well, here's to the Garage Brew Moto Show, 2016.
All right.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Let's drink.